I am jumping on in order to hopefully give you some inspiration as to how to embrace the month of November. And let's just be honest, this is not a month that most people necessarily love, but it's a very important month nevertheless. All the months of the year are important. So, if you're watching live, then don't forget to let me know. Hashtag live, any emojis, any questions that you may have. I will try and keep an eye on them. They don't always pop up straight away on my computer, but I will keep a lookout. And I'm especially excited about today's topic, and I think it's one that a lot of people could have questions about. So keep them coming. If you're watching on a replay, then don't forget to let me know by saying hashtag replay. Okay, I've made some notes ahead of today's talk, and I've been super organized, I think, in order to do them on my computer. So there we go. So hopefully I can have a look on what's going on as well as my notes. So, yes, I don't know obviously where you are in the world. It might not be anything like November here, but in both Scandinavia and also to some extent in the UK where I live now, um, November is kind of I think the often like the forgotten month by a lot of people, and it's probably because it's the month where winter is kind of strengthening its hold, if you like. There's the cold is coming in, the rain's getting heavy, storms are shaking the last few leaves of the tree, there might be snow, but usually, to be quite honest, this is just the soggiest month, especially if you live, like I say, in the north, in the northern hemisphere, and it's a month where a lot of people start feeling well, not just physically cold, but almost like emotionally, mentally cold, heavy, and uninspired. So this is also a month I think that has a lot of beauty in it. And I did a post earlier today about the beauty, like of when you go like exploring mushrooms and so on, or if there is a rare day where it might have stopped raining and you can take in the beauty of your garden and just enjoy a tiny bit of sunshine maybe, or even just just the fact that it's not raining. um, so this season really forms sorry, not this season, but this month uh, forms a very important bridge between the autumn season and kind of the depth of winter. And when I say the depth of winter, I mean the time of winter where we're kind of retreating fully inside. It's kind of this in-betweeny bit, and it's the bit if you're celebrating Christmas before kind of that whole thing takes over, and the time when the nights draw in and you might just want to hibernate, just like a lot of animals now go into hibernation. But I think, especially looking at the Nordic traditions and so on, it's important to kind of take our inspiration from nature, and there is so much of it this time of year. So it's really a time to release anything that no longer serves us, just like the trees are clearing off the leaves because they can't utilize them anymore. It's a waste of energy for them to have them. So it's also a time for us to kind of release that which we no longer need before we go into this more deeper period of going inside, which again I like to call it the clearing of the decks before you decorate them. So if you've been celebrating, for example, Halloween and All Saints Day, now is the time to start packing those away, and also to be clearing things away that are not, needed and that are taking up space unnecessarily, whether that's on your shelves or behind your cupboard doors. And this is really on the talking on the physical level as well as the mental level. So we release just like the trees in order to preserve our energy, but also to give us some clarity for the months ahead. And obviously, nature is going into like a dormancy period. And come early spring, everything is going to awaken again. And it's the thing is that obviously nature doesn't go fully asleep. Everything's still bubbling under the surface. It's just that we can't see it. And in many ways, I like to think of this as a gestation period because there's new life just underneath the surface. And as soon as the opportunities, the conditions, the environment's right, it's all going to come bubbling up to the surface. Uh, but in the winter, and especially in the depth of winter, it's all about nurturing that hidden life that's going on beneath the surface. And in order for us to do that properly, it is very important that we kind of shed everything now that we don't really need or that we don't really want to take with us when it actually comes into the new year and the spring and all of that. Obviously, we're a long way off yet because this is the bridge that takes us into this dormancy period. So, what do we need to clear? Well, it really starts with you, and it's very individual. And this is not going to be a talk about space clearing, but in many ways, it makes sense because as the weather outside becomes harsher and more inhospitable, then we tend to spend more time in our home. And for many, this will be an absolute natural part of what we do anyway, because we might start noticing those little things that we haven't noticed for a while. um, it might also be that we do the opposite and we're going like, oh, I want to cozy up my house, I want to line the nest, as I say it, because you want to kind of insulate yourself from the harsh weather on the outside, and you want to have that more feeling of hygge in your home. And this is obviously hygge high season. And there are so many ways of doing that, but it always starts with actually clearing away what is not needed. It's not about just adding layers in all the time. So as I said, the house kind of gets more attention. More of our activities are taken inside. And that means that if you're like a crafty person, or you just like cozying up on the sofa, or you do a lot of reading, it's quite important that the lighting is now up to scratch. And obviously it depends on where you live, but where I live, it's dark in the mornings when I get up. It's dark very early in the evening. I pick up my son and we have about an hour's daylight to do something with, and the rest of the time is then spent inside. So whatever activities we have inside, the lighting needs to be good enough for that. It needs to be up for that. And obviously, some of that you might already have in place, but other than that, this is the time to kind of reconsider that, and also to have that clear out. If you're celebrating Christmas, this is a good time to kind of have that clear out before you start decorating everything, um, clearing things out that are no longer wanted or needed, cleaning as well. And I always encourage my son this time of year, especially the beginning of November, to think about giving toys away that he no longer loves, so that we can give them to a charity shop in plenty of time, so that others can maybe buy them for presents. And also his school of this year hosting a toy appeal. So it's all about giving as new toys that are as good as new to less fortunate families. And this not only kind of clears the space physically for the new presents, but also I think very importantly it builds the anticipation for the time ahead. And that's the whole point about clearing things. It's like when we create space, then we make space. I hope I said that right. So when we give things away, when we clear things, it's like the space is there for new and better things to come in. And a lot of people, I think, have a lot of concerns and worry about whether the things that are coming in are actually going to be better. But that's really a trust issue, and that's highly personal. And obviously, there's a lot of studies that are looking at how we're wired brain-wise. So some people see the half empty, some see the half full. And yes, there is some brain wiring involved there, but we can also train ourselves to anticipate the best. And just like children are kind of expecting the best, when it comes to either the birthdays or to Christmas, then I think we should allow ourselves as grown-ups as well to expect that better things will come, especially when we're now making room for them. Okay, so also obviously, having now mentioned Christmas, if you are planning to celebrate Christmas, this might be the time of year where you start planning for that. And we do a lot of homemade crafty presents, and that all needs planning. And I am by no means super organized when it comes to that. I have been known to actually be very much the opposite, but I do try every single year. So this is a really good time, especially before we kind of get into the busier month of December, to allow for this. And also historically, this has been the time of year where people would do their mending inside. And, in the good olden days, this is where the socks would be knitted for the Christmas presents and so on. And why? It just lends itself to it with the everything in the season. And in many ways, it also helps to elevate that state of hygge and happiness when we're filling these otherwise quite grey days with things to look forward to. And finally, I also say that obviously you might not know, but on Monday is actually National Pickle Day. So if you, like me, have an allotment, or maybe you have an apple tree or something like that, or a quince tree, this is kind of last call for making something with that. I have just pickled the last beetroots from our allotment. I might not do pickled pumpkin this year, basically because we had too much last year. But there are lots of things that we can do to preserve or use up the things that the fruits and the foods that otherwise will not actually last the winter. And one of my favorite ways also of doing that is to, at this time of year, start doing some more baking. And I've got a really lovely couple of recipes that I've worked on. I love doing cakes, but I don't like having very sugary cakes. I like to have cakes that are, how should we say, semi-healthy, if not healthy. So I've developed a couple that involve using up some of the foods that we grow in an allotment. And it basically not only gets my son to eat more fruit and veg, but also because it's homemade, we can control how much sugar goes into them, if any. And then finally, I would say also with November, it's not all doom and gloom, because there are still some really, really lovely days to be had, or if not full days, then maybe hours during the day to go outside and to make the most of it. And like I went on my little nature walk this morning, spotting mushrooms. Or if you're at work and you see that there's actually no rain, or you see that there is maybe even a bit of sunshine, should you be so lucky, then this is the opportunity to go out and to just make the most of it. Because, uh, well, I say the weather is bad and unhospitable this time of year, which it is, but the thing is that obviously often when we look out, it is worse than it actually is once you're out there, and you will remember me saying over and over again that there's no such thing as bad clothing. Just sorry, no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing. So obviously we don't want to venture out in storms, but you know, a walk in the rain can also sometimes be really good for kind of clearing the mental cobwebs and to, yeah, clear the head and shake off any heavy feelings that we might have in our body. And if we can then celebrate with a bit of hot chocolate when we come in, then that's even better. Okay, let me just have a quick look to see at the comments whether I can see that there are any. Does not always show up. Hello, hello. Oh, hang on. I can see that there's a comment, but and it's from Lorella. Hello, Lorella. It did actually come in, which is reassuring. Sometimes they pop up the minute I actually just finish this live. Okay, so back to the season. I've talked a lot about the physical things in November, but it's also actually a really, really great time to start doing some more inner work. So if you already have a routine, that's great. Maybe it's now time to kind of mix things up a tiny bit, and it can also be that you know started. And one of the things that I always like to recommend this time of year is a gratitude journal. So if you're not already doing it in whatever shape or form, then you might want to consider it now. And some people think, oh, that sounds a bit weird because November, oh, it's horrible. What what is that to be grateful for? But this is exactly it, because there's so many things to be grateful for in a cold November month. Now, right now, I'm sitting here and you can't hear it, but the rain's kind of hammering onto my window. And it's been quite windy today. The trees have really been bending all over the place since midday, and it makes me extremely grateful that I am able to be inside, that I can choose to be inside right now, and also that I have the opportunity to turn the heating on. I can make myself another cup of hot tea if I want to. And also, I've got some candles that I've turned on, or that I've lit, I should say. And all of that helps with the gratitude. And once we actually get started doing a gratitude journal, it becomes an integrated part of what we do. And it can help, especially at the people see as challenging times in their life. That's always why I recommend it, and that's also why I like to recommend it for the month of November, because it's probably the month that most people find the most challenging. That it's there's always something to be grateful for, no matter who you are, where you are, whether it's your dog snuggling up at your feet, the smile from a stranger, or the fact that you are not being rained on. um, all of that are things that we can be grateful for. And a gratitude journal is basically just listing things, and whether you like listing things physically, which has got its own benefits, or whether you just like to list them mentally or in what other way throughout your day, it all works, because it basically trains your brain to find more happiness, to find more beauty, to focus on positive instead of negative, and it basically helps you make more happy. There have been studies on brain waves, you know, people who practice gratitude, and the same centers in the brain light up as if you were in deep meditation, and it gives a sense of calm to show this gratitude, and by noticing it even better, because then you start noticing even more things. It's the law of attraction all over again. You notice how much you've got to be grateful for, and you will have even more in your life as a result of that. Okay, finally, I will just say that this is also the time of year where if you have a a garden or an allotment like me, you might be burning off some of the garden waste. Don't know how we can do it this year because everything's so wet, but I will put a reminder out there that if you do that, that you make sure that you check that no hedgehogs or other wildlife has already been seeking refuge in that. So basically, you'd have to move everything. I like to leave things in our allotment for wildlife, and then if we have a fire, we kind of completely move things around. And then we use that opportunity as well to kind of make it a bit of an occasion. I like to have a little ritual that I've taken inspiration from the Vikings from, to kind of put a little note in the fire of things that I'm letting go of. So again, the release before the retreat. And also, this could be turned on its head, like my son likes to kind of make a note to Santa and put that in instead, so that it gets shared that way. So it could also be things that you're calling in, and whether that is a bonfire or a little fire pan, or a wood burning stove in your house, doesn't matter. Um, but if you can then combine it maybe with, I don't know, marshmallows and hot chocolate, then even better. And if nothing else, then this season and this month is very much about enjoying those things again, not overindulging, but in enjoying and allowing yourself to find joy in these the little things. As I said, either the heartier food that we're now craving, or also the anticipation of things to come, whether that's then making things for Christmas or clearing out. So I feel like I've spoken non-stop. There's a very long note I've written on my computer. I think I covered most of it. And I hope that it helps you to embrace this month, which, like I said at the beginning, a lot of people probably struggle with. But it's a month that is very important because it is this all-important bridge, and also it's a lovely month in many ways. I mean, every single season in nature is there for a reason. Every single month has its beauty. And it's kind of remembering to focus on the things that appeal to your heart the most out of everything that's going on. That is the key to also embracing that month, even if it's the one that you don't really feel drawn to. There we go. I hope you have a lovely month of November ahead. I hope that there's room for lots of hygge. And don't forget, it's hygge is always subjective and highly personal. And whatever makes your heart sing is what will be the right thing for you. Take care. Bye.